Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Simply Growing Food Podcast. I'm your host, Dillon. Today we're going to be talking about pullets. What does that mean? I'm going to be diving into some chicken breeds that we have here on the farm. We're going to be raising some pullets coming up this spring. We're going to go over the definition, don't worry. We're also going to be talking about, greenhouse in the wintertime. I put a poll out there on the Facebook page, and it seems like that is what you guys want to hear. So, that is what's coming up on the SGF. Stay tuned. All right, and welcome back to another episode of the Simply Growing Food Podcast. Today, I guess we're going to get right into it. We're going to be talking about chickens, okay? I know people love chickens. I love chickens. We're going to be talking about some of the breeds that we keep here in our egg-laying flock and why. We're also going to chat a little bit about the pullets we raise. What's a pullet, you say? Okay. Quick breakdown. Chickens, like cows, like pigs, like turkeys, like all of them, have different growth stages. And for those stages of growth, there are different names, okay? So like you have a chick, like a baby chick. Then you have either a pullet or a cockerel, okay? When they're adolescents, that's a female. A pullet is a female hen before she starts to lay. And a cockerel is a male chicken before it starts to crow. You know, basically before these two animals hit sexual maturity, there's a middle stage. So, and then when they become adults, you got a hen and you've got a rooster. So, there's a bunch of different, iterations of those words. But so in the springtime, we raised pullets. Last year we did a little over 200 for local families. We raise them and sell them. It's from people that want to keep chickens in their backyard or even have like an egg business like we do. We've sold chickens to a bunch of different people with different needs. Obviously, it's mostly for eggs, but last year we did 6 different breeds, and I got to tell you, I kind of want to slim it down. It seems this will be our 3rd year doing it. It seems as though you don't really need the variety. You don't really have to have the variety. Like, case in point, when I buy pullets, like for our egg producers, and like I want to buy finished hens, okay, I'm using a lot of words here. Pullets, or ready-to-lay hens, I buy them from another farm. We raise some, don't get me wrong. We raise a good amount of our egg layer flock from chick. But we always got to bring some extras in. I like to bring them in the fall time. That way they start laying October, November. They do really keep up with production through the winter. And that's kind of the whole point, Eggs become scarce in the wintertime. Fresh eggs, of course, people are rolling up their driveway stands, their driveway coolers, or roadside whatevers. I've even seen a mini fridge on the side of the road with fresh eggs in it. I mean, it's quite crazy. Extension cord down the driveway. I mean, what's even more bizarre about that is like they don't have to be refrigerated. So I can understand if you're like, oh, you don't want them to get too hot, you don't want them to freeze, but like most of the time, come on, we don't refrigerate our eggs before you get them from us, and they've only been here no more than 5 days, if that. They're fresh. And if you come on the weekends, I was just saying to Cassie the other day, we sell every egg laid Saturday and Sunday. Every egg that gets laid Saturday and Sunday is gone. It's so crazy. Well, the stand is closing after this weekend, and actually technically I'm open right now, but it's a slow time, so I figured I would try to bang out an episode here. But yeah, on the weekends, every egg that's laid gets sold. And during the week, every egg that's laid gets sold. I mean, that's not, eggs is not something that sits around here. In fact, there's so few eggs that we hardly get a chance to eat eggs, and that's something we're trying to reverse. I want to eat more eggs. Eggs are good, especially fresh. But anyway, last year we raised 6 different breeds of pullets. and they were Buff Orpingtons, Rhode Island Reds, Black Australorbs, Barred Plymouth Rocks, Silver Lace Wyandotte, and Easter Egger. Boom, there you go. Now, if we've talked chicken, if you and I have talked chicken, you know I don't really care for the Easter Eggers. It's a fad chicken. They lay okay, but people want them because of the color of the egg, and it has nothing to do, like the color of the egg has absolutely nothing to do with the quality of the egg. The life of the chicken has everything to do with the quality of the egg. But, people are like, oh, it's fun. My kids, they get to pick blue and green eggs and yada, yada, yada. That's cool. As far as the production side of things, meh. No thanks. No thank you. I've even seen people charge more for colored eggs. And I'm just like, what are you doing? What are you doing here? It's not that unique. It is unique that you picked a bird that barely produces eggs to go into an egg business. So maybe that's why they were so much more money. Could be. I don't know. I digress. I don't like them. I did keep some. That wasn't for me. That was for you, the consumer. I fell prey to the same thing. I said, you know what? Let's give our consumers, our customers, our loyal egg people, let's give them a little variety pack. So, we primarily keep what's called a red sex-linked, L-I-N-K-E-D, chicken for our production birds. And we do that because they're hybrid, okay, and they lay more than most other breeds. I mean, and they're a brown egg layer too. People seem to have some kind of weird aversion. Some people have a weird aversion to white eggs that come from a farm. Just things we've run into before. It's very strange, but it is what it is. So we got to work around these things. So people think brown eggs are fresh eggs, even when they see them in Walmart or whatever. So brown eggs sell better. So we keep primarily brown egg layers. The red sex-linked chicken that we keep lays like a light brown egg, almost like a tan. We also keep some barred Plymouth Rocks. Beautiful bird. They obviously hail from Massachusetts, as the name infers, Plymouth Rock. And there are many different colors of Plymouth Rock chicken, okay? Maybe one episode we'll just really dive into the chicken world. But for this one, we're going to kind of use some surface level stuff. When I say barred Plymouth Rock, barred, B-A-R-R-E-D, is just the color pattern on the chicken, okay? They're known for their black and white stripes, or barring, they call it. They look like bars of colors. I don't know. There's brown. There is. There's brown, there's red, there's white, there's buff. There's a ton of different colors of Plymouth Rock chicken. I prefer the barred, okay? And there's a few reasons. Like, Plymouth Rock chickens lay exceptionally well in the winter because they're bred in a New England state, right? Especially when our winters were colder. But the other thing is the barring pattern is like a genetic code in the chicken world, meaning certain crosses of chicken yield what's called a sex-linked chicken, okay? So what the industry does is they take, let's see, we can use this as an example. They take a red production, well, we use a production red rooster, but they take a red genetic rooster, so a New Hampshire red, a Rhode Island red, most common, a production red, which is like an ultra hybrid of two of those red chickens. But it's a hybrid. And whereas a Rhode Island red and a New Hampshire red, those are like heritage breeds, okay? Those are not hybrids per se. They breed true when you mix them together. So like the mix we do here in-house when we breed our own sex links is we'll take our red rooster, his name is Rojito. He's a production red, and we cross him with Delaware hens. And those offspring are technically sex-linked. So when they hatch, the boys will be one color, and the girls will be another color. That's why they call them sex-linked chickens. Their color is linked to their sex. So When they're born, when they're hatching, you can tell pretty much right away. That's a boy, that's a girl. You know, you can figure out your numbers. It's pretty helpful in the industry, as you could imagine. It eliminates a job, right? Because in most large-scale hatcheries, there's someone who literally sexes all the baby chicks as they're, coming down the line. There's people that are trained to what's called vent sex them. You flip them over, you look at them, you try to figure out their gender that way, and then you go about, you put them in the appropriate filings. It's a pretty interesting business. We do a little bit of hatching here. We will also cross Rojito, our red production rooster, with Barred Rock hens, and that mix results in what's called a black sex-linked chicken. So we have the ability to do both in-house. Last year we did the black sex-linked chicken, and we still have the babies. Like, they're hens, they're in the flock, they're really nice-looking birds, and it worked. The boys were one color, the girls were another. So something fun you could do in the backyard if you have chickens, just by keeping different genetics in the flock. The other thing is, so like I was saying before, is now we offer basically a rainbow pack of eggs. We have primarily brown egg layers, all different shades of brown, basically. We have a couple of white leghorns. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. They're not white. They're brown leghorns. There's white leghorns, red ones, black ones, brown ones. We have the brown, which have a nice little color pattern to their feathers. And they lay a white egg, right? And then, so we also have a black copper marin, which is a breed comes out of Europe, or the French black copper marin is what we have. And they have feathers on their feet. They're black. They've got a little copper coloring around their hackles. Beautiful little bird. Actually, they're quite big. And they lay what's called a chocolate egg. Deep brown, like a milky, chocolatey, cool-looking egg. I don't know. I don't really care about the color of the egg. Like I said, the quality of the egg is what matters, and the quality is dependent on what that animal's life is like. But anyway, yeah. So we also have a couple Easter eggers we held over. That was the other thing. So, and the Easter eggers lay like an olive colored to sometimes actually like a light green egg. They're just, whatever. We people always, ask us, or people had been asking us about having green eggs in the thing. Oh, they think that's so cool. That'd be great. My kids would love it. So we started doing it. Whatever. They lay okay. Not great. Not like the hybrids. Even the heritage breed lay better. And what's interesting is the Easter egger is a hybrid. Okay. They cross an Americana chicken, which used to be when I had a hatchery, which we'll talk a little bit about when I had a hatchery. Fully licensed hatchery. We were able to ship all over the 50 states. That was not a thing. Easter eggers were not really even a thing. In fact, if you wanted a colored egg layer, most hatcheries, if not all of them, had Americanas. They were called Americanas. Okay? And I didn't like them either. I didn't care for them either. Their temperament was whatever. But now they have the Easter egger, olive egger, cherry egger, all sorts of stupid egger. I saw an Arctic egger the other day. I'm like, what is that? How about why is that? Why is that? That thing's not great for laying eggs. Just like... So this is kind of tying to the hatchery I had. When I was 19, I started a hatchery. I had business partners, which was the demise of that hatchery. I don't ever advise having business partners to anybody that wants to get into business. Do it yourself or don't bother. It's okay to have help, but it's not okay to have partners. That's my philosophy. Works for some. But I want to point out even Ben and Jerry aren't still together, okay? Just throwing it out there. Anyway, so... Actually, I don't know if that's true. I heard something about them separating. Not that it matters. Anyway, chickens ended up becoming like fine art to people. Okay, I started a hatchery so I could provide baby chicks to locals. All right. There's obviously a huge demand for chicks. Look at what Tractor Supply does. Look at all these grain stores every spring. they're moving thousands and thousands and thousands of baby chickens. It's just what it is. Okay, I worked at one. I know how it goes. They move thousands of chickens, baby chickens. So myself and my business partners started what was called the hatching house. Now, I want to take credit for the name. Okay, came up with that. It was the Hatching House Incorporated. And it was cool. We offered like 25 to 27 different breeds of chickens. Most of them were bred here. And the others were bred at my business partner's site. They had a farm in Canterbury. And all the hatching took place here, okay, because I was the only one that had a facility that could get approved by the state of Connecticut, okay. It was concrete, easy to clean, it was heated, it was nice, easy to disinfect. And that's really what it comes down to when you start dabbling in that kind of industry. You got to be able to clean things. You know, we had to wear special boots to go into the hatch room. You had to dip your feet in bleach before you entered and when you left. I mean, it was a whole thing. I get it. Biosecurity in birds is big. Especially at that level. We're shipping all over the nation. You got to have some kind of routine to cleanliness here. So we offered, like I said, 25 to 27. I say 25 to 27 because I can only really think of 25. And I know that we had like 2 really rare breeds that my partners were all in on. And that was the thing. They were hucksters. They were gimmick artists. They were into the fads. There's no integrity when you get into fads. Okay, these were also the same kind of people that got into goat milk soap, all right? And I apologize to anybody that hears that loves goat milk soap, but then it ties right back to the alpaca, right? We're going from designer chickens to goat milk soap to alpaca, okay? What happened with all those 3 things? The bubble popped. The bubble popped. People realized, like, why am I $10 for a bar of soap? Are you kidding me? It's not that it's not worth it. It's just not worth it, okay? Sorry to those artisans that make it. It just isn't worth it, especially when people start figuring out how to make it themselves. And they realize that most of a bar of goat milk soap is not even goat milk. Goat milk. There's not that much goat milk in goat milk soap. And alpaca, don't even get me started. All right? Yeah, it's soft. But it was a lot of money. I remember I was working in selling grain retail. Like I was working at the local grain store selling, whatever. And that was when alpaca was big. We're talking like early 2000 teens, like 2011. And it was just kind of coming to an end. Like it was still big, but it was like dying, okay? You wanted a pair of alpaca socks, 1 pair, $60, $70. Who has the money? That is a fad. Ridiculous. Now, when I hear people that get into those kinds of things, I second guess. I think about it a little bit more. Because my ex-business partners did both those things. Actually, all 3. Alpaca, to goat milk soap, to ornamental, exceptionally expensive chickens that nobody actually needs. Okay? So those 3 are indicators for me. But anyway, I digress. It was good business. We had a lot of fun. We learned a lot. I learned a lot. I was the president. My partners were the VP and the treasurer, and we also had a secretary. Yeah. So, because it was a corporation, you have to do all that. You have to have meetings, you have to record it, you have to do all that stuff. And we had some legs, man. We knew our chicken stuff. I knew my chicken stuff. I could talk about chickens all day. Different breeds, different traits, why they are the way they are. I mean, livestock is all designed based on the region of the people that needed it, okay? So, like, some breeds are better in the heat, some breeds are better in the cold, some breeds produce, and that's ubiquitous through agriculture, all different types of livestock, from pigs to goats to chickens to whatever, okay? Like, a Sicilian buttercup chicken is not really one you want to keep around here, okay? It's in the name. It hails from the Mediterranean, right? And if you ever look them up, they have a ridiculously ornamental comb on the top of their head, the roosters do. Actually, so do the hens, but the roosters are more pronounced. And you know why you don't put them in the cold? Because they get freaking frostbite. All right? It's hard to protect the rooster's comb sometimes in general. They have a single comb, which is your stereotypical looking chicken. But if you throw a Sicilian buttercup with a crown comb, I think they call them crowns, or horn comb, buttercup, There's a bunch of different types of comb style. I think there's 6 of them. Now I'm a little rusty now. I say I know all this chicken stuff. Now I'm feeling a little rusty. I gotta brush up on some of my chicken encyclopedias. Yes, I have several. Do I need them? Probably not. Anyway, it was a good business. We offered bantam breeds, standard breeds, some rare, mostly normal. And the thing that we always disagreed on was price point. Now, and still to this day, there's only a certain amount of money you can get for a Rhode Island red chicken. The consumer doesn't care about the genetics at all. You really, like, if you're going to go big, you want to pump out baby chicks, you can't pass the genetic cost down to the consumer. You really just can't. Sorry, I disagree. You're going to spend $200 to $300 on a really good trio, maybe even more, maybe even less, I'm sorry, on really good genetics when it comes to Rhode Island Reds, or like your stereotypical barred rock, or just the most most commonly found chicken breeds, okay? There's breeders out there that got really good genetics. Problem with Rhode Island Reds is they're so inbred in the industry. They are mean, they're not great, they're hard to handle, whatever. They've developed a bad reputation, which isn't great for the state bird of Rhode Island, okay? It's not great. Makes them look bad. That's fine. That's fine. Point is, you can't say, oh, because we spent $500 on this trio or whatever, we have to charge $15 for a Rhode Island red chicken, baby chick. People won't pay it. It's not sustainable. And that proved to be true because after I left the company, they closed. Dude, they closed because it was unsustainable, and they're hucksters. They're in it for the fad money up front. People will spend a ton, and then they get right out of it. You know why? Because they don't really care. They want the money. I learned that early. I learned that at 19. Might have even been 18 when we started. Don't have business partners. What ended up happening with the hatching house, aside from like when it just fizzling out into nothingness, was my partners were stealing money, just straight up stealing money from the company. Okay. And they thought, they were twice my age. They were taking advantage of me. Okay? You know what's funny is my dad knew it. He said something to me about it when he met my partners. But he also did the whole like, hey, you got to figure that out. You got to figure that out. And I did. And it didn't hurt me that bad. It sucks that I don't have a hatchery to this day, because if I would have stayed with them, let's just say the hatchery thing worked out 10 years down the road. We're 10 years down the road now. Who knows where we'd be? Who knows? We could have an in-state hatchery, which we still don't have. Connecticut does not have a chicken hatchery like you see in the South, like most people. All of our farm stores sell birds that either come from Missouri, Ohio, like all over. Not Connecticut, though. Not Connecticut. So had things worked out with my embezzling business partners, which you don't really forgive that. And listen, there were 4 of us in the business. 3 of us had full-time jobs, and we were running this business. Okay? One person kind of didn't want to get a job. Like, we all kind of just pitched in, but it didn't really work out. So, whatever. Anyway, now we have Daigle Farm, and we're cruising right along. And I don't have business partners, but I've got Cass, and we've got some help, and things are good. But I digress. This year, might have already said it, we're going to raise pullets again, and I'm thinking instead of 6 varieties, I'm thinking just like 3 or 4. Okay, we have a little bit of a space issue when it comes to baby chicks, getting them in February, having them ready for May and June for pullets, and then getting baby chicks in early March that are meat birds and having those ready for May as well. So we only have so much brood space in the barn. A brood is a spot you put baby chicks. It's called a brood, right? A brood of eggs, a clutch of eggs, whatever you want to call it. But a brood is where you have the heat bulb, the chick formula, a little bit of electrolytes in the water. It's just for the babies. It's extra hot and protected from, the elements. So we are going to be raising pullets. A lot of people like the pullets. I get it. It's It's a needed item, you know. Most of the pullets you find out there are $10 to $15 more than us, and also one variety, and it's usually some kind of red chicken. You know, we offer varieties. So might take that 6 option, you know, of varieties, bring it down. But real quick, so New Hampshire Reds and Rhode Island Reds and Plymouth Rock chickens are obviously all New England breeds that all originated from this area. Okay, New England's not big, all right? No Connecticut breed, as far as I know. Yeah, as far as I know, one does not exist. One does not exist. Anyway, a Buff Orpington is an English breed, okay? Now there's an American variety of Buff Orpington. The English ones are much bigger. They lay less. You know, it has its own ridiculous fan base. If you ever want to, like, dive into chicken fandom, search English Orpingtons. Any kind of, like, blog or Facebook page. I mean, you just get sucked in. They're beautiful birds, but, man, not worth the money or the hype. Sorry. The Black Australorp is, like kind of the name says, it's got Orpington in it, and it's got an Australian native breed, or an Australian breed. And they crossed them, and the Australorp is a black chicken. It's got greenish, purpley feathers when the sun hits it. They're really nice. Another great winter layer. All these are great winter layers, which is why you'll find them in our flock. Silver-laced Wyandotte is, they're named after the Wyandotte Native American tribe of upstate New York. And that's actually where it originates. Not the tribe itself, but from the area that the tribe is known to inhabit. So, and the Wyandotte, typically you could only find them before in silver-laced or golden-laced. We have silver-laced in our flock, which you can also use to make your own backyard sex-link chickens if you wanted to incubate. Pretty cool. They're a really good winter layer. Obviously, upstate New York's cold. Which one am I forgetting? Barn Rock. The Reds. The Buff. I'm forgetting someone. Silver-laced. Easter Egger. Let me check my flyer. I got the flyer from last year up here. I got to edit it and get it out there. No, I guess that's it. Silver-laced Wyandotte, Buff Orps, Barred Rocks, New Hampshire Reds, Easter Eggers, and Black Australorps. Okay, so those are the ones. We'll probably offer those. I don't know. Those are all the best sellers. You know, maybe I'll keep the 5. But some of them we're back to a logistic issue. Maybe I'll just bite the bullet, pay more per chick. See, I'm trying to hit a quantity discount. Anybody that's ever bought, well, anything online in bulk, you know, there's quantity discounts. So if you buy chicks in batches of 25, you pay a price, and if you buy them in batches of 50, you pay a little bit less, right? So if I only want to do 150 birds for February, right, I want 50 of each. It limits me to 3 varieties, and splitting up the varieties is going to be stupid. People are going to be like, I can't get what I want. That won't work. So maybe I do 30 of each. 30, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Okay, we'll see. I'm probably overthinking it a little bit, but people just want eggs. They want clean food for their families, whatever. And this is a great way to do it. Backyard chickens, super simple, super easy. We are going to have a class again this spring on it because we did one last year. Didn't get a lot of sign-ups. That's okay. We will next time. I can feel it. Anyway. Pullets, we're going to be running those pre-orders coming up soon. You get to pick whichever variety. It's a 50% deposit. Now, the birds are $20 a piece. Okay, we can't really do it for cheaper. The birds are $20 a piece. They're 3 months old when you pick them up. You don't have to deal with the heat. You don't have to deal with the special feed. You are ready to go and treat them as laying hens. And then it'll be, 8 to 12 weeks from that point, you'll start getting eggs. Actually, maybe even sooner, because if I hold them longer, which we usually hold them 4 or 5 months, and then you go and move them, it takes them longer to settle in. So it kind of pushes that egg date back just a little bit. There's a fine science to it. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to let them go a little bit earlier. They'll be smaller, but they'll be plenty hardy to go outside no matter what the weather brings. As soon as they got feathers, they're good. And as soon as they hit 6 weeks old here, they go outside. We have outside pens for them. They are out of the weather, but they're not like temperature controlled. So, I mean, they're birds after all. They're animals. So, yeah, this will be our 3rd year doing pullets. Yeah, I like raising them, you know. And pretty much everybody shows up. When they pre-order them, they show up for them. Only once, actually this past season, we had 2 people that signed up, paid for them, never came to get them. I sent them emails, reached out, nothing. Actually, one lady scheduled with me 2 different pickup times and still never showed up. And she paid for them, and she never said anything to me again. So those things happen. It's rare, but they do happen. So, yeah. Pullets 2025. It's going to be good. It's going to be fun. Moving on, I put a poll on our Facebook page of a couple different topics. You know, what did people want to hear me talk about? And one of them that got the most likes, attractions, votes, whatever, was the greenhouse in the winter, start to finish kind of deal. So, I'm going to spend the rest of the show probably talking about that. Let me think about that for a second. Yeah, we'll talk about the greenhouse. Okay, so our heated house, for those of you who don't know or haven't seen it, whatever, maybe someday you will, it is 32 feet wide by 50 feet long. Yes, 50 feet long. It's just like a single arch, Quonset kind of hut. What do they call those? I should know my greenhouse design, building roofs and stuff. I know they've got Gothic, then they've got like the arch. This doesn't have any straight ends on the side, so it's just like a dome. I do call it the dome, the bubble dome. So it's like Florida in there all the time, especially right now. But anyway, we've got 8 beds in that house, and 5 of those beds are 50 feet. The other 3 are 30 feet. Now, in the summertime, this is our main house for all of our tomato and pepper production. At the moment, we might be putting some in the market garden this year, only because we did a couple of experiments and trials last year with peppers and tomatoes in the market garden, and they did okay. Obviously, it's all weather driven. That's why we keep those precious crops inside. Because one bad, one weird freak weather thing and everything's in the market garden, you could lose the crop. So we protect them. But we're moving into other crops, so they don't bother me as much to maybe put them in a more dangerous environment. I digress. Anyway, so we usually put our summer crops in there starting in May. Yeah. We'll squeeze 3 different rotations about in that house every year. Same with the market garden. All those beds get 2 to 3 crops in each bed every season. So, and actually, it's funny, speaking of the greenhouse, Cass was like, hey, you got some empty rows, why aren't you seeding them? And I'm like, that's a good point. Why don't I seed those like this week coming? We've got some mild weather. Everything right now has to be hand irrigated anyway. I'm not going to bother putting water through the lines after they've been kind of drained and whatever. So, I'd have to just hand water. Not a big deal. Not a lot of rows either. But, so, what we're pulling out of there right now, we're harvesting turnips of 2 varieties. We've got some arugula, spinach, romaine, and some voluntary dill that came up. So we're harvesting all that stuff. And it's December 28th. A common misconception is that plants can't get frosted. Some plants can get frosted, and it doesn't totally destroy the integrity. All of those plants I mentioned can get frosted. They can't stay frozen. That's usually where it really does them in. And they can't be subjected to it over and over and over and over and over again. Ours sometimes get a little zinged. Like the other day I woke up, it was 4 degrees outside. That meant the greenhouse was at 28. That's kind of cold for any of the plants. They were not looking good. But you heat them up, you get the fire crank in, things change, and so far so good. So, but I am thinking about cropping out both rows of turnips and the spinach and arugula. That's going to leave us 6 open beds. And I should fill them. Right now, if I fill them, we'll be harvesting by April, late March, April. And then those rows will get cropped right out for the end of April, early May, and then we'll put our tomatoes and peppers in there. So, and then those things will get cropped out in September, right? Maybe even a little later. and then we'll put what we put in there this fall. So all that stuff we're cutting right now, I planted mid to late September from seed. Everything? Yeah, everything's from seed. And we started harvesting turnips. We started harvesting arugula mid-October. So we're still cutting it. Actually, I haven't cut it in a couple weeks. I'm letting it regrow so it doesn't have a bad flavor. So it's only been cut once, not more than once. I know October was a while ago, so you should have several cuts in there. And if it was a normal season outside, you would have several cuts in those 2 months. But it's not a normal season. So it's the bubble dome. Anyway, so yeah, we started harvesting out of that house in October. We'll finish harvesting next couple of weeks. We'll get things composted, flipped back into grow, and we'll put some more seed in. Probably more of the same, to be totally honest with you. If we're looking at grow time and harvestability, the leafy greens are pretty cold hardy and quick. Even though there's not a lot of sunlight, they still continue to do their thing and grow. Okay. Root crops, a little bit more finicky. The increased sunlight sometimes forces them to bolt. That's not great. Brassica especially. So going into spring is a little bit harder than going into winter with root crops in the greenhouse. Just how it is. During the day, it'll get up to the 80s. The other day was 87 in there. Not too balmy, but 87 nonetheless. And that house, we usually go through probably 2 to 3 cords of wood every season, just keeping it going. I remember last year, this might sound unbelievable, but it was unbelievable as it was happening. I was like in shock. Those of you in the area know we had like an Arctic blast come through. And it was, I don't know, in the wind chill, negative 25. It was crazy here. And we were up all night just stoking the stoves in the barn and in the greenhouse. The barn obviously fared a little bit better, but it still got cold. Even without the wood stove going, the barn never freezes because the body heat that the chickens put out, it keeps the building at least above freezing. Not warm, but above freezing. So that night, keeping the stoves going, we were up every couple of hours, checking on them. And it didn't even matter. In the greenhouse, we covered everything in there with frost cloth. We had a nice crop of broccoli. Everything was looking good. I think it was February, I want to say. Negative 25. Sorry. There's really nothing you can do. Unless you got like a propane burner and a well-insulated house, and I didn't have either. And that's fine. We did okay. We only lost like 6 broccoli plants out of the whole. All the beds are planted, so like we could have lost a lot. We didn't. Those crops did okay. We could have lost a lot more, But keeping that fire raging. The fire was raging. I can't even express it. Raging. Okay. It could only keep that house just above 0. I think maybe it was like 3-4 degrees. And stuff still didn't fully die. We didn't completely lose everything. We got lucky. But plants are pretty resilient. They're kind of adapted to deal with freak weather. I'm not going to say that domesticated crops like broccoli are, but they can definitely deal with the cold. A lot better than a tomato. You know what I mean? But yeah, that Arctic blast was crazy. I just never seen anything like it in my whole life. So hopefully that doesn't happen again. We can't really, no growers in the wintertime can deal with that. That's crazy. That's just like, ooh. Jeez, some people that don't even rely on agriculture for an income can't deal with that, The Arctic blast of 2024. Yeah, it was 2024. I digress. Yeah, that thing was raging, and it was still cold as ever in that greenhouse. And like I said, things made it. So, anyway. We don't have a roll-up on the greenhouse. A roll-up is like the sides. The side will roll up and let all that hot air out. We have 2 vents on the front and a regular walk-through house door that I took off of someone's house. They replaced their house door, and it was totally fine to use in the greenhouse when we built it, so we did. Shout out to Vinny. Don't know if you ever listen. Vinny and Pat, thanks for your front door. But this year, because I didn't have a roll-up on it, because I put new poly on it last fall, thank God. That was a whole debacle. But I put 2 exhaust vents on the far end of the greenhouse up high, and I need to put some fans in there. That's what I wanted to do this year, was put some fans in there and just pull all that hot air out, because hot air rises, right? Everyone knows this. And luckily, stuff just didn't die, Knock on wood, stuff doesn't even matter. Season has passed. But the heat didn't kill anything. Because even with, I think that's, a greenhouse is equally as dangerous with the heat than it is with the cold, vice versa. You might think it'll protect you, from all the cold weather, and it might not. And you might think that the hotter months don't really matter in there because you're just trying to protect stuff from the cold, but that's really not the case. You got to exchange that air, bring in fresh air, and bring in cooler air, because most plants will die. Like, in the summertime, I've seen that house get to 118. That's like Death Valley, Nevada, all right? That's hot. Tomatoes do okay. Peppers do okay. Cucumbers, that's a little bit too hot for those. That Curitiba not happy, Curitiba sad. They do not thrive in that kind of heat. So learn that lesson. Cucamelons, on the other hand, seem to do okay, believe it or not. The Mexican jumping gherkin. No, not jumping. The Mexican sour gherkin, they call the cucamelon. Probably won't grow again. It's more of a fad crop. I don't like fads. And they don't really taste great. I don't like to grow stuff I don't like to eat. So if we're growing it, we're also eating it. No more cucamelons. But so the greenhouse, yeah. So that we try to get 3 crops out of it. It's like I was saying, when it gets cold, and it's like abnormally cold like it was, there's not much you can do. Not much we could do. We prayed a little bit. We covered things. We kept the fire going. We stayed up. And maybe because of all that effort, we didn't lose all of our crops. Maybe it was the effort. I don't know. Certainly wasn't the wood stove. I can tell you that. But yeah, it was crazy. So right now we're going to get ready probably to plant more romaine. Probably put some herbs in. Might put some carrots in. I could probably get away with sowing some carrots right now and them actually coming to fruition by tomato time. 5 months in not perfect conditions, the greenhouse? Sure, we could probably do that. More turnips. Might try my hand at some kohlrabi again if I have the seed. That's all transplant stuff. I got to start it inside. Well, maybe I don't have to. I usually do start it inside and put them out as little plugs. Kohlrabi is like a swollen root vegetable. If you don't know what it is, look at it. Like, Google it. It's a weird look. Tastes pretty good. They call it the cabbage turnip for a reason. Tastes like a mix of both. Looks more like a turnip than a cabbage, but it tastes more like a cabbage than a turnip. I don't know. They're not bad. Not my favorite. Not bad, though. We do eat them. But anyway, yeah. So, and then, yeah, it's kind of the greenhouse. I wish, I guess I could get, it's not much more detail that goes with the greenhouse. It's kind of straightforward. I hope this was eye-opening for those of you that wanted to hear me talk about the greenhouse. I'm going to move to the second category on the next show. I'll have Cass on with me, too, probably. Which was how we run our egg business, which I find way more fascinating than this greenhouse business. It's less heartbreaking. I don't know. Sometimes the greenhouse is troublesome. It's definitely a lot of work. And in season, when it's hot and you got to get in there and do work, you got to get in by, start by 6 a.m., get out by 8, because maybe 9, depending on the time of year, because, man, it gets hot quick. And you just can't be working in there. We don't let the farm help work in there when it's too hot. I don't work in there when it's too hot. It's dangerous, literally dangerous. So, next episode we might talk about the egg business. I can't remember what the other things are that I posted that y'all could vote on, but there will be more. Anyway, that's going to do it for this episode of the Simply Growing Food podcast. I hope this episode was informative and you learned something. If not, that's a shame. that's going to do it for this week. Bye-bye.